Hey everyone, this is Anatoly, and today we will speak about how to build a clickable prototype. Why should you build it, how to use it, and how to test them on real users. So let's imagine you got an idea of a product and your idea is pretty clear, so you not only thought of the basis of the idea, but you already quite understand how you see the interactions between the pages, what the navigation would be, how each screen or each page of your application would probably look like. So your inner voice here usually says like, alright, this is the time. Let's gather designers, developers, and start building this. Let's just document the requirements that I have in my head and start building the product. Or maybe you already have drawn some screens for your application and you want to give these screens to the developers for them to start developing your product. In general, my advice here would be to take a small pause at this point and try and build a clickable prototype. And this will actually give you a lot of benefits and will help you avoid a lot of risks and pitfalls. So let's speak about this in a bit more details. Now, what is the general purpose of the prototype? An interactive, clickable or tappable or pressable prototype gives you a unique perk of being able to try out your product before going into development. And this removes the most major risk of every new product. And this risk is you develop a new product, you invest a lot of money into the development, and you find out that people just don't like it, or the interactions within this product are not working as they planned, or there are some core mistakes in the workflow of the product. So instead of investing into a full-scale development cycle and spending a ton of money on building a working product that is not really working, it's much better to just build a clickable prototype with a few clicks using some simple tools and check it on real people, whether they are okay with this or they would like to change something there. So, if you already have some design screens or even black and white wireframes, low fidelity wireframes, building of the prototype will cost you almost nothing. That's because nowadays you just have to use a tool like Invision App, where you can just upload your images, your screens that you currently have, and then in a very simple and visual instruments you just select the areas you want to make clickable and assign transitions to these areas. So basically you upload 6 screens or 20 screens or 50 screens of your app. Just on each page you select the area you want to make clickable and you select the destination. You can engineer the whole workflows within this clickable prototype. It's very easy, it's available to anyone, and the basic edition of Invision is totally free. So you can just go to envisionapp.com, open it up and upload your images and start prototyping. But if you don't have any design or wireframes yet, my advice would be to go for Figma, because Figma is one of the most modern tools for creating user interfaces. And the best thing about this is that it already includes the prototyping tool within itself. So you're not just kind of drawing some kind of interface, but you start creating your prototype with the first pixel you draw when creating your interface. For native iOS applications, I would also advise Flinto as a tool of selection to build the prototype. Not because it looks better or not because it's a native app, but also because it allows you to simulate the real transitions of a mobile applications, like swipes, like smooth scrolling, like different ways to navigate between sections, and it gives you the absolute look and feel of a real working native iOS application. So if you're building this, I would definitely consider to use Flinto for building this kind of prototype. So after the prototype is done, there are 3 ways to try it out on real people. First way is the Guerilla testing. It's also called the corridor testing. That's the simplest thing. So you just upload this onto your phone or your tablet or your laptop, and you just start catching people in the corridor in your office where you work, or maybe your friends or some bystanders, and just ask them to like, hey, I'm developing a new product, could you please check it out, look at it, try to, I don't know, order a pizza within my app and say how you like it. So you give them the phone, they try to go through all the screens, pressing those clickable areas, and they comment their process and they tell you, like, okay, this button doesn't seem like very intuitive to me, like I just don't understand, where should I press, or I should have swiped here, I didn't understand that, I didn't get that. So this is the way you gather the statistics about what parts of the interface do you need to enhance. And the most quantitative mistakes that people commit when using your prototype are the best markers on where you should enhance your interaction within the application. After you do this testing, you just iterate on the design, you maybe repaint some buttons, maybe change some interactions, some navigation paradigms. Then you re-upload your prototype, then you test it on people again, then see the results and compare them to the previous results. This was the first way to test your prototype. The second way is to hire a third-party outsourcing firm who will do the prototype testing for you. There's plenty of agencies on the internet whom you can hire, who will provide you people who will press different buttons in your interface. They will test it, they will check it, they will try it. You will see them through a webcam as they are walking through the prototype. They will comment on all the pitfalls they find and they will provide you detailed feedback. This is a bit more accurate thing because colleagues are not usually your target audience, and for this kind of services you may shape your target audience and pick just the right people to try out your prototype. But the con is that you cannot pick the right people if you're building something very specific, very niche based, like when you're building some kind of complex enterprise interface for some internal system in a bank. I think there is no agency who could provide you this kind of target audience to test your prototype on. And the third way is the classic Nielsen-Norman group usability testing. This is where you have a usability lab which consists of two rooms. There is one room where your test subject is sitting in front of a laptop or a phone, and there's the other room where the whole development team is sitting, and there's also one person who talks with the person in the next room and asking him to do things like, now you go to this section, now you press this button, now you try to order your pizza here, now you open up the menu, what do you think about this? And this is the most classic and iconic way of usability testing. Maybe I will do a dedicated video about this one day. This is the most accurate way to test your clickable prototype, but this will take much more time than any of the previous methods, because you will have to find the target audience on your own, you'll have to invite them to your office, you have to set up this usability laboratory, set up those two rooms, find someone who will be ready to participate this as a host, the person who would be asking questions. Maybe you would need some hardware to be able to do an intercom connection between two rooms. You will also need a webcam. There's a lot of things to consider about this. So for a first take, I would consider option 1 and maybe option 2. And then if you're already a serious solid startup, or your product is kind of mature and you really want to tweak some subtle differences like the color of the call to action button, maybe this is where you should introduce the third method. So what will you get when you will build this prototype and you will test it on real people? You will get a cheap and early feedback on how your product would work like. You will also know all the major pitfalls in your user flows and would be able to fix them before inviting expensive developers to work on your product. So in 90% of the cases, I would advise to anyone who is building a digital product or would like to enhance an existing legacy digital product to include clickable prototype in your toolset of instruments. Alright, this was Anatoly and we were speaking about clickable prototypes. Please subscribe to my channel. This really helps me to make more videos and deliver interesting content about software development, outsourcing, etc. to you guys. So see you next time. Cheers. Bye bye.